Students, in this video we are going to cover chemistry model question paper for first PUC for the year 21-22. This is a new paper pattern which includes a lot of choices. So depending on the blueprint, you can choose which chapter you want to learn in detail and all of that. So here we are going to start with part A. In part A, it's going to be a mixture of physical chemistry, inorganic and organic chemistry. In this, we can answer any 10 questions and each question carries 1 mark. So here the first question is, name the SI unit of amount of a substance. The answer is mole. Now the second one is, write the relation between enthalpy change and internal energy. This relationship is learnt in the chapter thermodynamics. So because enthalpy change and internal energy change is asked, we have to write the answer with respect to delta H is equal to delta U plus P delta V. Because it's specifically asked in terms of energy change, we need to include delta. Now the third one is, which quantum number corresponds to the period number in the modern periodic table? This question comes from chapter number 3, which is talking with respect to periodic table. So here the quantum number is principal quantum number. So if your principal quantum number is 3, that means it belongs to period number 3. If the principal quantum number is 4, it belongs to period number 4. Now the fourth question is, write the Lewis dot structure of carbon monoxide molecule. It is from chemical bonding chapter. So here carbon monoxide will have a triple bond with carbon and oxygen having a lone pair of electron. So around each atom in this there are 8 electrons. So around carbon 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 electrons. Similarly around oxygen there are 8, 6 over here and 2 here. So total 8 electrons around each atom in the Lewis dot structure for carbon monoxide. Now the next one, fifth question is, what is the oxidation number of oxygen in a peroxide? It is always -1. Then the sixth one is, what is the molecular formula for heavy water? It is D2O. This particular question is asked in hydrogen chapter from part 2 textbook. Then mention one biological importance of potassium. This comes under S block element chapter. Since it's only a 1 marker, we can just write one answer to this, which is oxidation of glucose, or we can write transmission of nerve signals. Any one we can write as the answer. Now question number 8, which alkaline earth metal gives a brick red color to the flame? This we have done even in practicals when we do salt analysis. So for brick red color from your alkaline earth metal, it is calcium. You can either write Ca or you can write the entire word, calcium. Then question number 9, what is the shape of a Buckminster fullerene? This is one of the allotropic forms of carbon. We will study it in P block element. So here this is a soccer ball shape. Then name the gas which forms complex carboxyhemoglobin. This is again coming in P block element chapter, where we are talking about the toxicity of carbon monoxide. When carbon monoxide enters our body, it will form this complex called carboxyhemoglobin, which will block the oxygen entry to the body. So the gas here responsible for that is carbon monoxide. You can either write the formula or you can write it in words. Carbon monoxide. Then question number 11 is, which gas is liberated in the Dumas method? It's one of the preparations to detect the presence of nitrogen. So the gas liberated here is nitrogen gas. Then question number 12 is, name the first organic compound prepared in laboratory from an inorganic compound, urea. This is the very first thing we learn when we start learning about organic chemistry. 13th question is mention the catalyst used in Friedel-Crafts alkylation. So here the catalyst used is anhydrous AlCl3. That is a catalyst used in Friedel-Crafts alkylation. Then write the significance of a biochemical oxygen demand. So the significance of a biochemical oxygen demand is it indicates the amount, the quantity of oxygen. It indicates the quantity of oxygen used by microorganism in the oxidation of organic matter. And this is from the last chapter where it's talking about water pollution, air pollution and all of that. Now the next one is what is acid rain? You need to write the definition of an acid rain. Acid rain refers to rainfall with a pH less than 5. So these are 15 questions under part A, out of which any 10 questions can be chosen, and because it's a 1 marker question, you can either write one word or a 1 sentence answer and you still get marks for it. Now let's move to part B. Now under part B, you can answer any 5 questions and each question carries 2 marks. So your 16th question here is mention any 2 properties of cathode ray. So here we can write 2 points. The first point is cathode ray travel in a straight line. So that's point number 1. Our second point is cathode rays consist of negatively charged particles. Consist of negatively charged particles. Now I always suggest all students to write a point extra, because in case 1 point is wrong, you have another point to support your answer to get marks. So you can write another point where cathode rays are deflected even when subjected to a magnetic field. Even when subjected to a magnetic field. So if they're asking it for 2 marks, I would suggest you all to write a point extra. In case 1 point is wrong, you have another point to support your answer. Now next, the question number 17 is what are exothermic processes? Give an example. So 1 mark for the definition, 1 mark for the example. So you can write the process in which heat is liberated from the system is called exothermic process. An example for this can be Haber's process. So we can write nitrogen plus hydrogen giving ammonia. This process is exothermic. We need to then balance the reaction. So 1 mark for the definition, 1 mark for example. Now question number 18, what are transuranium elements? Give an example. This is from the periodic table chapter, which is chapter number 3. So here for this we can write an answer. The elements present after uranium in the periodic table are called transuranium elements. Example, you can write plutonium or neptunium. Any one can be given as an example. So 1 question, 1 mark for the definition, 1 mark for the example. Question number 19 is the dipole moment of BeF2 is 0. Give reason. So when you get a question based on dipole moment, first when you draw the molecule, you need to analyze the elements given. So you have a fluorine over here on both the sides and beryllium in the center. Now because fluorine electronegativity is higher than beryllium, electrons are pulled in the direction of fluorine. And when it's pulling in two opposite direction, one dipole moment will cancel the other, therefore it becomes 0. Now we need to write the same explanation as answer here. So let's write that. So here it can be written as this is because the two equal bond dipole points in opposite direction and cancel the effect of each other This is going to be the reason for BeF2 dipole moment being 0. Therefore, the dipole moment of BeF2 is 0. Now the next one is question number 20. What is hydrogen bonding? Mention the type of hydrogen bonding in orthonitrophenol. So for this the definition can be, it is defined as the attractive force which binds hydrogen atom of one molecule with the electronegative atom of another molecule. Now the second question is, mention the type of hydrogen bonding in orthonitrophenol. In orthonitrophenol, the type of hydrogen bonding is intramolecular hydrogen bonding. Intramolecular hydrogen bonding. And this is one of the classic examples that you have for hydrogen bonding in the chapter. Now the next one is 21st question. What is displacement reaction? Give an example. So you can write the definition. It is a chemical reaction in which an atom or an ion of a compound is replaced by an atom or ion of another element. So that's going to be the definition for a displacement reaction. We need to give an example for it. So for an example, you can write the reaction in a Daniell cell. So zinc plus copper sulfate giving zinc sulfate plus copper. So here sulfate is replaced from copper to zinc in the product side. So 1 mark for the definition, 1 mark for the example. Now the next question is question number 22. It's a give reason question. The first one says concentrated nitric acid is transferred in an aluminium container. We need to specify why is that so. So here you can write the answer as formation of oxide coating on the surface of aluminium prevents further reaction of aluminium with concentrated nitric acid. So that is the reason that you give for this. So it's a 1 mark question. Now the second one is silicon forms a p-type semiconductor. We need to write a reason for that. So for this, silicon forms a p-type semiconductor because the impurity atom is surrounded by 4 silicon atoms. So they will form a p-type semiconductor where the positive charge acts like a charge carrier. So that's another 1 mark question. Now question number 23, write the bond line structure and IUPAC naming of the compound ortho-dibromobenzene. So it's a 2 mark question. You have 2 questions here. One is bond line structure, the other one IUPAC naming. So let's let the bond line structure first. So ortho-dibromobenzene is this. You draw the benzene ring. You place bromine on 1. And because it says ortho-dibromo, which means 2 bromine atoms should be there in the ortho position. So for this BR, the ortho position can either be here or here. So this is going to be the bond line structure. This will carry 1 mark. For this you need to write what is the IUPAC naming. So here at position number 1 and position number 2 we have bromine atoms. So the IUPAC naming can be 1, 2 dibromobenzene. So this is going to be a 2 mark question. 1 mark for the IUPAC naming and 1 mark for bond line structure. Now the 24th question is draw the staggered conformation of ethane. Because they have asked staggered conformation, we need to write both of it, one Newman and the other one Sawhorse. So we'll write here for the staggered so this one This is going to be the Newman projection, and this is going to be the Sawhorse projection. This is the Sawhorse projection. So 1 mark for Newman and 1 mark for the Sawhorse projection. The last question in this part is name any two gases causing global warming. We have carbon monoxide, methane, CFCs. You can write any two. So here part B is again a mixture of all three parts in chemistry, physical, inorganic and organic chemistry. Out of that you given 15 questions, you can answer any 10 questions, you can answer any 5. Each question is carrying 2 marks. So now moving on to part C. Here we can answer any 5 questions where each question carries 3 marks. Now question number 26 is define ionization enthalpy. How does ionization enthalpy vary in a period and down the group in the periodic table? So here they haven't taken a specific period or a group. It's just a general feature that we need to know. So 1 mark is for the definition, 1 mark how it varies across a period, and 1 mark for how it varies down a group. So it's a 3 mark question in part C. Now keep one thing in mind that part C questions are all inorganic chemistry questions, which means questions related to your periodic table, questions related to redox reaction. These type of questions come under part C questions, which are only for 3 marks. So let's answer this question number 26. So here we can write that ionization enthalpy is the energy required by an element to lose an electron. That carries 1 mark. The second mark is how is it varying across the period. Third mark is down the group. So you can write down the group ionization enthalpy decreases and across the period ionization enthalpy increases. So 1 mark for definition, 1 mark for group and 1 mark for period. So it's a 3 mark question. Now the next one is 27th one. Explain the shape of ammonia molecule using VSEPR theory. So either they can ask for ammonia or they can ask for water molecule, or some question paper also has for the same 3 marks give the postulates of VSEPR theory. So in the model paper they have given the shape of ammonia. You can also get water, or you can get write the postulates of VSEPR theory instead of this. So here specifically they're talking about the shape of ammonia molecule. So first we will write what is the expected geometry and hybridization. Alright, so here we can write the hybridization of ammonia is sp3 and the expected geometry is tetrahedral. So this is the expected geometry and the hybridization of ammonia. But what happens is due to lone pair bond pair repulsion, the shape of ammonia molecule changes from tetrahedral to trigonal pyramidal, and the bond angle changes from 109 degrees to 107 degrees. So when you mention the expected geometry and hybridization, you get a mark. You mention the reason why there's a change from one shape to the other, you get another mark. And then you mention the change in the bond angle, you get a third mark. So it's a 3-mark question trying to explain the entire detail why there is a change in the shape of ammonium based on VSEPR theory. Now let's move to the next question, which is the 28th one. What is a sigma bond and why is a sigma bond stronger than a pi bond? Now here we can write a sigma bond is a single bond formed by the axial overlap of s orbital. Now the second question is, why is a sigma bond stronger than a pi bond? We can write that the extent of overlapping is greater in a sigma bond and therefore it is stronger than a pi bond. So just a simple definition and a reason to why they are stronger. Now moving to the 29th question, write any 3 postulates of molecular orbital theory. So in this, you can write any 3 postulates. There are so many postulates given in the textbook in NCERT. You can write any 3 of it. So let's write that down. So here the first one can be, salient features are given, that is similar to the postulate. So you can just write that 3 points here. So here you can write that the atomic orbitals of comparable energies and proper symmetry combine to form molecular orbitals. That's the first point. Now the second point can be, the electrons in a molecule are present in molecular orbitals as electrons of atoms are present in atomic orbitals. That's your second point. Now the third point is, the bonding molecular orbitals have low energy and hence greater stability than its respective antibonding molecular orbitals. So this particular question can be asked for a 3 mark. Maximum they can ask for a 4 marks. So you can just have 4 points, 3 or 4 points. You don't have to learn the entire point that's given in the textbook. Any 3 or 4 points are more than enough. Now the next one is question number 30. Consider the following elements: sodium, fluorine and iodine, and 3 questions are given. Now in this we need to identify the element that exhibits only a negative oxidation state. So out of these 3, it is fluorine that exhibits only a negative oxidation state. Second one is identify the element that exhibits only positive: sodium, because it's an alkali metal. Alkali metal's feature is it will lose an electron and prefer to be in a positive oxidation state. Now the third one is identify the element that exhibits both positive and negative: iodine. They can exhibit both plus and minus oxidation states. So each carrying 1 mark. It's a simple 3 mark question. If you know the property of simple elements in the periodic table, such kind of questions are easy to answer. Now question number 31 is mention 3 uses of dihydrogen. So let's write that down. So the first point here is used in the manufacture of ammonia by Haber's process. That's the first use. Second one is liquid hydrogen. Liquid hydrogen is used as a rocket fuel. And the third one is used in fuel cells to generate electricity. So 3 uses for 3 marks. Now the next 3 marker is a 30-second question. How is sodium hydroxide prepared commercially by Kastner-Kellner cell? So this is an important one in the S block chapter. Along with the Solvay's process is also another question that's really important. Any one will be there in the question paper. So in this model paper they have given for Kastner-Kellner cell. So it's only a 3 marker. So we can just write the reactions. So here we can write that at cathode we have sodium, which will gain an electron and in the presence of mercury forms sodium amalgam. That's what happens at cathode. Now at anode, Cl minus will lose the electron and form chlorine gas. So at cathode reaction, anode reaction, we will now write what is the net reaction. The net reaction is going to be sodium amalgam plus water molecule giving sodium hydroxide plus mercury plus H2. We need to balance this entire equation. So we have 2 of this here, 2 sodium hydroxide and 2. So cathodic reaction carries 1 mark, anodic reaction carries 1 mark, net reaction carries a 3rd mark. So it's a 3 mark question. Now the next one is give the chemical formula for plaster of Paris and limestone. So here plaster of Paris is a 2 mark question because it has some water crystallization. Limestone is a 1 mark question. So plaster of Paris here is CaSO4 dot half H2O and limestone is CaCO3. 3-mark question because it also has a water of crystallization. Now question number 34 is write any 3 anomalous properties of boron. So simple 3 properties we can write. One is small size. Second one is high ionization enthalpy. Third point is non-availability of d orbitals. So 3 points for 3 marks. Small size, high ionization enthalpy and non-availability of d orbitals. Now the 35th question is write any 3 differences between graphite and diamond. So for this let's draw a table so it's easy for us to write down the answer. For a difference question, it's always easier to draw the table and write the answer. That makes the correction easy too. So preferable way can be a table. So here we have graphite and we have diamond. Now let's write the differences between both. So the first difference here is that the carbon is sp2 hybridized. sp2 hybridized carbon. This is sp3 hybridized carbon. Because diamond has only CH bonds, whereas graphite will have benzene rings, and each carbon a benzene ring is sp2 due to conjugation. Now the second point is the nature of graphite and diamond. This one, graphite is amorphous and diamond is crystalline. The third point here is because they have benzene structure, and benzene, one thing that is common is resonance. So because of that, there is conduction of electricity because of conjugation of electrons in the benzene ring, whereas diamond does not conduct electricity. So 3 points for 3 marks. Alright, so that is the end of your part C, which is purely on your inorganic chemistry chapters. So if you know basic idea about your periodic table, this part is easier to answer. And practice a lot more on these properties, a lot more on the preparation of sodium carbonate and sodium hydroxide. These are all repeated questions, plus the differences between graphite and diamond. So that is your part C. Now let's move on to part D, which is purely physical chemistry. So here the first one under this physics for part D is you have to answer any 5 questions and 10 questions will be given to you. So the choice is wide. Out of 10 you need to choose only 5 and each question carrying 5 mark, where the breakdown of each question is going to be either 3 plus 2 or 4 plus 1. Any one breakdown you will have in the question. So here under 36A part, it says write any 3 postulates of Dalton's atomic theory. So we have I think around 4 or 5 postulates. Out of that only 3 is enough. So we can write the first postulate as matter consists of indivisible atoms. That's the first point. Second point is all atoms of a given element have identical properties. Third point is compounds are formed when atoms of different elements combine in a fixed ratio. So 3 points for a 3-mark question because it clearly says 3 postulates. The next one is for a 2-marker. Calculate the molecular mass of carbon dioxide. So for carbon dioxide, we have 1 atom of carbon into 12, which is the atomic mass of carbon, plus 2 atoms of oxygen into 16, which is the atomic mass of oxygen. When we calculate this, it is 12 plus 32, which is equal to 44 grams. 2-mark question. You have to write the unit for this. Now the next one is a problem based on empirical molecular formula. Every question for grade 11 will have a problem on empirical molecular formula. So here it says the percentage composition of an organic compound was found to contain 26.66% carbon, 2.22% hydrogen, and the rest is oxygen. So we have 3 elements: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. And out of that, oxygen is not given to us. So first we have to find what is the percentage of oxygen, then go ahead and calculate. Now molecular mass of the compound is given to us. From that we need to find out what is the molecular formula. So before we move into the table for the calculation, let's just find out the remaining part where it is giving the value for oxygen. So here the total amount of the compound will be 100 minus, add up both the values here, 26.66 plus 2.22. When we calculate this, you will get your value for oxygen, which is 71.12%. Now we need to draw a table for this. So here we have a table. In this case, we can just fill up the headings: element, percentage, atomic mass. Then you have percentage by atomic mass. And then we have divide by smallest number, and then we have the simple whole number ratio. So simple table, just follow the headings and we're going to calculate it. So here elements are 3: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. Percentage of carbon is given to us in the question, 26.66. Hydrogen is 2.22. And oxygen is going to be 71.12. Atomic mass of carbon is 12, hydrogen 1, and oxygen is 16. Now in this case, to calculate the next one, which is percentage by atomic mass, basically trying to calculate the number of moles. So here this will be 26.66 divided by 12, which will give 2.22. Now the next one is going to be same thing for hydrogen, 2.22 divided by 1, which will be equal to 2.22 itself. Then we have 71.12 divided by 16, which will give 4.44. Now when we divide this, we need to find out which is the smallest value in this. 2.22 is the smallest value. So when we try to divide, we have 2.22 by 2.22, which is equal to 1. Similarly for hydrogen also, which is equal to 1. But for oxygen, it is 4.44 divided by 2.22. It is an exact 2. So in this case, the simple whole number ratio is also going to be 1, 1 and 2. This will give us what our empirical formula is. So here the empirical formula is equal to CHO2. That is going to be our empirical formula. But the question says determine the molecular formula. So we need to go one step further. So before we move into empirical formula, first thing let's calculate what is the molecular mass of empirical formula. Our empirical formula is CHO2. So here 1 atom of carbon, so we write 1 into 12, which is the atomic mass of carbon, plus 1 atom of hydrogen, so 1 into 1, which is the atomic mass of hydrogen, plus 2 atoms of oxygen into 16, which is the atomic mass of oxygen. Now when we calculate this, you will get the molecular mass is equal to 45 grams. Now in this case, we need to calculate the N value. N value is nothing but the mass of the molecular formula divided by the mass of the empirical formula. So mass of molecular formula is given in the question itself, 90. Mass of empirical formula we have here. When we calculate this, N value is equal to 2. Now we have to find out what is the molecular formula. So this is equal to N into the empirical formula. This is equal to N into CHO2, which is the empirical formula we just calculated. This will be equal to C2H2O4. N is equal to 2. So when you multiply 2 inside, you will get C2H2O4, which is the molecular formula for the given problem. So now the same question, part B, is state Avogadro's law and what is the value of Avogadro's number. So here we have to write a statement for it. The statement is equal volume of gases at the same temperature and pressure should contain equal number of molecules. So that's a 1 mark question here. State Avogadro's law. The second one is what is the value of Avogadro's number. So the value of Avogadro's number is 6.022 into 10 to the power 23. So 1 mark for the law and 1 mark for the value. Now question number 38 is a problem on wavelength. So here it says the FM rate station of All India Radio broadcast on a frequency of 1020 kilohertz. So here frequency is equal to 1020 kilohertz. Calculate the wavelength of the electromagnetic radiation emitted by the transmitter. So we are only given with new value, which is your frequency. Now this we will have to convert it to hertz. So we should know the relation first. So here 1 kilohertz is equal to 1000 hertz. Therefore 1020 kilohertz is equal to X value. So this will be equal to 1020 into 10 to the power 3 hertz. We are going to use this value in the question. So here we can write that lambda is equal to C by nu. This is the formula which gives a relationship between lambda and nu value. C is a constant. So C is equal to 3 in 10 to the power 8 divided by the new value which we just converted, that is 1020 into 10 to the power 3 hertz. So just substitute this 1020 10 to the power 3. When we divide 3 by 1020, you get 0.002941 into 10 to the power 3. When it goes up, it becomes minus 3. So that will be 10 to the power 5 meters. So here this will be equal to, when you shift the decimal, you're shifting 1 2, 3, 4, 5. So the entire power goes off. So 294.1 meters. And that is going to be the lambda value. Now the next question is B part. Write the Rydberg's equation and explain the terms. Now Rydberg's equation, we have it with respect to energy, with respect to frequency, with respect to wave number. Any one can be written, whichever you can remember. So here nu bar is equal to 109677 into 1 by n1 square minus 1 by n2 square. And because it's in nu bar, the SI unit is going to be in centimeter inverse. Now in this, they've clearly told to explain the terms. So nu bar is wave number, RH, which is nothing but the Rydberg's constant, is 109677, which is the Rydberg's constant. N1 is equal to ground state electron. N2 is equal to electron in the excited state. Excited state. So this is a 2-mark question and the previous problem was a 3-mark question. Now for this question, that's question number 39. A part, write all possible values of L, M and S when n is equal to 3 in an atom. So n value is given to us. So here we can write when n is equal to 3, L is equal to 0, 1 and 2. Okay, so these are the three L values. Now when L is equal to 0, we need to get M value. So if L is equal to 0, then M is also equal to 0. When L is equal to 1, M is equal to minus 1, 0, plus 1. And when L is equal to 2, M is equal to minus 2, minus 1, 0, plus 1 and plus 2. We need to find what is the S value, is basically the spin of an electron, and that will be minus half and plus half. So when an n value is given, L, and from L value you need to find out M and you get S value. So this way you can solve any problem related to principal quantum number to find out azimuthal, magnetic or spin quantum number. Now the next question is a simple one. Atomic number and mass number of an element is given 29 and 64. How many protons and neutrons are present in it? So here we are given with atomic number, we are given with atomic mass. So therefore the atomic number is equal to number of electrons, which is also equal to number of protons. So therefore number of protons is equal to 29. Now for number of neutrons is equal to atomic mass minus number of protons. So here atomic mass is mentioned to us in the question 64 minus number of protons. You will get 35 as your answer. So any element can be given whose atomic mass and atomic number will be given to us, and we need to calculate number of protons and number of neutrons. Now our next question is 40th question. A part, derive ideal gas equation. So for this question we need to know the mathematical expression for other laws. Only then we can do this. So let's solve one by one. So we can write here, based on Boyle's law, at constant temperature, pressure is inversely proportional to volume, or we can say volume inversely proportional to pressure. Then based on Charles' law. At constant pressure and number of moles, volume is directly proportional to temperature. And the last one is based on Avogadro's law. At constant pressure and temperature, volume is directly proportional to number of moles. So here we have three equations. On the left hand side we have all volume parameter. We'll just combine all of it. So volume is directly proportional to temperature and number of moles and inversely proportional to pressure. Now to remove this we need a constant. So this is equal to RNT by P. When we just rearrange this, this will be PV is equal to nRT, which is an ideal gas equation. So this way from each law we can calculate, we can derive the ideal gas equation. It's a 3-mark question. Now the same question B part is named to the two types of forces which determine the physical state of a system. So for this the first one is force of cohesion and the second one is force of adhesion. So two things, for 2 marks you have 2 points here. Then we have our next question, which is 41st question A part. Write any 3 postulates of kinetic molecular theory of gases. So under this the first point will be gases consist of large number of identical particles that are so small that the actual volume of molecules are negligible. That's the first point. The second point can be no force of attraction between the particles of a gas at STP. That's the second point. And the third point is particles of a gas are at constant and random motion. So there are around 6 to 7 points in NCERT book, but you can choose any 3 of it, 3 to 4, and you can just write it for 3 marks. It will be maximum marks for 3 marks only, so learn only 3 or 4 points. You don't have to learn all of it. Now the next question is for the 41st question B part. Define saturated vapor pressure of a liquid and how does it vary with temperature. It's a 2-mark question, so 1 mark for definition and 1 mark for the variation. So the definition is, it is defined as the pressure exerted by the vapor in equilibrium with the liquid that temperature. So that's the definition of a saturated vapor pressure. Now how does it vary with temperature? Saturated vapor pressure increases with increase in temperature. So you just write this variation, you get 1 mark. Now the next one is a 42nd question. A part, derive the relationship between Cp and Cv for an ideal gas. So here for the derivation, we have to write at constant volume, which is QV, is equal to heat capacity into delta T. This entire equation can be considered as delta U, which is change in internal energy. Now the same thing at constant pressure, QP is equal to Cp into delta T. This can be considered as delta H. Now for a mole of an ideal gas, we have to write what is the equation that shows the relation between delta H and delta U. So this is equal to delta H is equal to delta U plus P delta V. Now this can also be written as delta H is equal to delta U plus R delta T. Because PV is equal to nRT, instead of PV we can also write R delta T. Now you can't further simplify this equation. So wherever you have delta U, delta H, substitute this, and wherever you have delta H, substitute this. So delta H, you will substitute Cp is Cp into delta T. So let's put that Cp into delta T equals delta U is equal to Cv into delta T. Delta T plus the remaining will be R delta T. Now in this equation, what is common? Delta T is common. So let's take that out and you will get Cp is equal to Cv plus R. Now here we can just rearrange this equation, right? Cp minus Cv is equal to R. This is showing the relationship between Cp and Cv. Now the next question is B part, 2 marker, what is entropy and give its SI unit. So definition, entropy is the measure of randomness or disorderness of a system. SI unit of entropy is equal to Joule per Kelvin per mole. They're all energy terms. So you'll have Joule per Kelvin per mole as SI unit of entropy. Now the next 23rd question is a problem on Hess's law. Calculate the standard enthalpy of formation of liquid benzene given the enthalpies of combustion of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen are these values. So first let's write down what is the required equation. That is the equation that you get in the last. So here the required equation is, you're trying to form benzene, so let's break down benzene. Carbon plus hydrogen giving C6H6. It's not balanced, so let's balance the equation. Now what else is given to us in the question is the enthalpy of combustion of carbon, hydrogen and benzene. So let's write down those equations. Combustion of carbon will give carbon dioxide whose delta H value is nothing but minus 393.5 kilojoule, and let's number this as 1. It's already a balanced equation. Now the second one is for hydrogen giving H2O its delta H value is minus 285.83 kilojoule, and number this equation as 2. This equation is not balanced, so let's put half over here. Now for benzene, C6H6 plus O2 giving CO2 plus water. This one's delta H is given here in the question as 3267 kilojoule, and this is going to be question number 3. Now this equation is not a balanced equation. So here we have 6 carbon here on the left hand side. So here we have to put 6. Now we have 6 hydrogens here, but we have only 2. So we are going to balance this as 3. Now we have 12 oxygen and plus 3, which is 15 oxygen. So we'll put here 15 by 2. Now we have balanced the equation. These are the values you get from the question. Now we need to see if each of these equations given to us are balanced as per the required equation. And if they are not, we need to balance them. So taking the first equation here, carbon, we have 6 carbon atoms in the required equation, but we have only 1. So what we're going to do is multiply the entire equation 1 with 6. So let's do that. Multiply equation 1 with 6. So when we multiply it including the value, you will get 6 carbon plus 6 O2 giving 6 CO2. And its delta H value is going to be minus 393.5 into 6. So you will get minus 2361 kilojoule, and this equation is going to be equation number 4. Now same thing you're going to do with hydrogen. Hydrogen only 1 molecule, whereas you have 3 molecules here. So multiply the equation 2 with 3 along with the value. So here we can write multiply equation 2 with 3. So here we will get 3H2 plus 3 by 2 O2 giving 3H2O, and its respective delta value is going to be minus 857.49 kilojoule, and this is going to be numbered as new equation number 5. Now the last equation here is talking about combustion of benzene, but we want this benzene to be on the right hand side because we're calculating for the formation of benzene. So what we do is we're just going to reverse equation number 3. So here we're going to write reverse equation 3. When we reverse, whatever is on the reactant goes to the product, and whatever is on the product comes to the reactant. Along with that, the sign which is negative will change to positive. So let's write that 6CO2 plus 3H2O giving, here the reactants here will become the products. 15 by 2 O2, and its respective delta value, which was negative, will now change to positive. Now this is going to be our new equation, which is equation number 6. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add equation 4, 5 and 6. Those are our new equations. So now when we add up, let's write down these equations here so our adding becomes easier. 6 carbon, 6 O2 giving 6 CO2. So it's written here, and its delta value is equal to minus 2361 kilojoule. Now we'll write the next new equation, which is 3H2 plus 3 by 2 O2 giving 3H2O, whose delta H is equal to minus 857.49 kilojoule. Then the last one is 6CO2 plus 3H2O giving C6H6 plus 15 by 2 O2, whose delta H is equal to 3267 kilojoule. Now we have all three new equations, which is equation number 4, 5 and 6. We just have to simplify them. Now whatever is in the reactant and product side, if you have common terms out, just cancel it out. So here we have 6CO2 and we have 6CO2 on the left hand side. So we are cancelling that. 3H2 on the product side, 3H2 on the reactant side. Let's cancel that out. When we simplify 6O2 and 3 by 2 O2, when we do the fraction, addition of this fraction, you will get 15 by 2 O2. So let's cancel that out. What you're left out is with, on the reactant side, 6 carbon. We have one more which is 3H2 giving last one which is on the product side, C6H6. Now this equation you get here has to be equal to the required equation that you wrote first. When you get these two correct, which means your answer that you calculated, the method you did here is correct. If you are not getting the same, which means you have gone wrong somewhere here. Alright, so required equation, the final answer should be the same. There shouldn't be any difference. So here when we calculate the delta H value, when we simplify all this, you will get 48.5 kilojoule per mole. That is your answer for Hess's law. Now the same question, B part, is a 2-mark question. What is a spontaneous change in given example? So here a spontaneous change is an irreversible process and may only be reversed with the help of an external agency. So that's a definition. An example for that is combustion of fuel. So it's a 2-mark question. 1 mark for definition and 1 mark for example. Next, question number 44 state, Le Chatelier's principle. What is the effect of temperature on equilibrium when the forward reaction is exothermic? So here we have to write a statement. If a system in equilibrium is subjected to a constraint such as change in temperature, pressure, or concentration, the equilibrium shifts in such a way as to nullify the effect of constraint. So this entire statement should be written for state the principle. Now it says when the reaction is exothermic, what will happen? So here we can say that when the reaction is exothermic and when you increase the temperature, it will automatically favor a backward reaction. Okay, so let's write that down. If the temperature of a system in equilibrium is increased, the system tries to decrease the temperature by absorbing heat and favors backward reaction. So now our next one is the same question, B part. What is homogeneous equilibrium? Give an example. So we can write equilibrium in which both a reactant and products are in the same phase. Such kind of equilibriums are called as homogeneous equilibrium. Now an example for that can be Haber's process, where hydrogen, nitrogen and ammonia all are in the gas phase. So it's a 2-mark question, 1-mark definition, 1-mark equation. Now the next one is write any 3 applications for equilibrium constant. So 3 applications. The first one is to predict the extent of a reaction. To predict the extent of a reaction. Second one is to predict the direction of a reaction. And the third one is to calculate equilibrium concentration. To calculate equilibrium concentration. So those are your 3 applications. Now the same question, B part, is aqueous solution of ammonium chloride acidic? Give reason. So first thing for such kind of questions is to write down the aqueous solution of ammonium chloride equation. So we have ammonium chloride. Aqueous solution is nothing but in water. Now here when you try to dissolve this, you get ammonium hydroxide and HCl. This is the equation you get. Now out of this, HCl is a strong acid. So here we can write down that aqueous solution of ammonium chloride forms HCl, which is a strong acid, therefore making the solution acidic. So this way, when we want to find out if a given solution is acidic or basic, put down the equation and check whether they are a strong acid or a weak acid, or strong acid or a strong base or a weak base. Accordingly, we will get the answer to it. Next, the question is 46A. Prove that pH plus pOH is equal to 14. We need to prove this. So for this, first we need to write down the equation for ionic product of water. So here the equation for ionic product of water is this, H3O plus and OH minus. So product of these two is going to be the ionic product of water, which is equal to 10 to the power minus 14. Now this one, when we take negative log on both sides, negative log on both sides, this will give here minus log Kw, which is equal to minus log of the entire one, H3O plus and OH minus. Now this will be equal to, again here also, minus log of 10 to the power minus 14. Now when you try to solve this entirely, you get minus log of Kw equals, this is get inside. This will be minus log of H3O plus minus log of OH minus, which is equal to minus log of 10 to the power minus 14. Now let's try to solve this entire equation. So here we can write that when we have minus log of Kw, which is written over here, that is nothing but minus log of Kw, which is equal to minus log of H3O plus minus of log OH minus, which is equal to minus log 10 to the power minus 14. Let's try to solve this. Minus log of Kw is equal to pKw. Minus log of H3O plus is nothing but pH. Minus log of OH minus is nothing but POH. When we solve this, minus of minus 14 will give 14. So therefore we can tell that pH plus POH is equal to 14. We can prove it by this method. Then the next one is explain common ion effect with an example. So here we can write, we need to explain common ion effect. So we can write the definition here. The suppression of the dissociation of a weak electrolyte by adding a strong electrolyte containing a common ion is called common ion effect. Now an example for this is I'm taking acetic acid, which is a weak electrolyte. So if I'm taking acetic acid, trying to dissolve this in water, I will get acetate ion plus H3O plus. Now this is a weak acid. Now what I will do is, when I add a strong electrolyte, which is sodium acetate, this will start dissociating as CH3CO minus plus Na plus. So now, due to large excess of CH3COO minus in the solution, the equilibrium shifts in the reverse direction. So this way you are trying to explain the statement by taking an example. You can also take an example of ammonium hydroxide and ammonium chloride, which is similar to what you did in salt analysis, and still explain this concept. Either way, both are correct. Now the next one, let's move to part 5, which is purely organic chemistry. So here you are given questions which are worth 5 marks each. You can answer any 2. And this is purely an organic chemistry part. So here 47th question, how can carbon and hydrogen be estimated in the organic compound by a Liebig's process? So when the term estimation comes, it's basically talking about quantitative analysis. So let's see how to write this down. So here we can write the entire process itself. a known mass of the organic compound is oxidized with cupric oxide in CO2 free atmosphere. During this, carbon gets oxidized to carbon dioxide and hydrogen to water. Now, water formed is absorbed in anhydrous CaCl2 and carbon dioxide is absorbed in potassium hydroxide. Now these corresponds to the mass of water and carbon dioxide by checking the increase in mass of calcium chloride and potassium hydroxide. So for this, an equation is given. Your hydrocarbon which contains it, which undergoes oxidation to give X amount of carbon dioxide and Y by 2 amount of water. Now the same question, B part, is what is functional group, and write the structure of the functional group carboxylic acid. So first let's write down what is the definition for this. So here it is an atom or group of atoms which determine the properties of organic compound. The properties of organic compound. That's 1 mark. Now another one is write the structure of functional group carboxylic acid. So for this, you give any R group, it can be methyl, ethyl, any group. And we have C double bond O and an OH. This is for carboxylic acid. Now the next one, 48th question. What are carbocations, and mention the hybridization state of carbon and shape in methyl cation. So let's see how to answer this. So for this we can write that during heterolytic cleavage, if the carbon atom gets a positive charge, such species are called carbocations. Now the second question is, mention the hybridization state of carbon in a methyl. So here hybridization of CH3 plus is sp2 and the shape of CH3 plus is planar. So 3 questions are there for 3 marks. Now the next one is, how do you detect sulfur in the sodium fusion extract? The minute you have detect word, you're talking about qualitative analysis. You want to show the presence of a particular element in that compound. So here we're going to write a qualitative analysis for sulfur. So in this we have 2 processes, in that you can write any one. So here for sulfur we have 2 tests. One is lead acetate, the other one is sodium nitroprusside test. You can write any one of it. So here I'm writing sodium fusion extract is acidified with acetic acid and lead acetate solution. Lead acetate solution. Now this forms black precipitate of lead sulfide is formed. So now this sentence will carry a mark. You need to write its equation. So here we can write CH3COO twice Pb, which is lead acetate, plus sodium sulfide, which will give lead sulfide, which is the black precipitate, plus sodium acetate, and this is the black precipitate. So it's a 2 mark question, 1 mark for the explanation and 1 mark for the equation. Now the next question is, explain the mechanism of chlorination of methane. It's a very important question in the paper for an organic part, so don't skip this question out. So for this, for chlorination of methane, we have a 3-step process because it follows a free radical mechanism. So here under the first process, which is the chain initiation, that's the first process in a free radical mechanism. So here Cl2 molecule will form Cl dot plus Cl dot. When equal distribution of the electron across a double bond is there, you have a free radical. Now that the free radical is formed, we need to show the propagation step. So the next step is going to be chain propagation. So under chain propagation, we will utilize the radical here. So we have methane plus a Cl dot, which will give methyl chloride plus, you will get CH3 dot and a HCl. Now this CH3 dot will react with more of Cl2 to form CH3Cl plus Cl dot. The process will keep repeating again. Now this Cl dot will react with the CH3Cl. And same way you will get the products here. You will get HCl out. So 1 hydrogen and 1 chlorine. And you will get CHCl2 dot. Now this will react with Cl2 molecule to give this is CH2Cl2 plus a Cl dot. Again the process repeats. You get CHCl3 plus Cl dot, which will give one hydrogen and one chlorine out, and you are left with CCl3 dot. Now this will further react with HCl with Cl2. To form CCl4 plus Cl dot. Now the last step is chain termination. So in this, whatever free radicals are left out will all join together. So I can form Cl dot plus Cl dot will give Cl2 molecule. Then I have a methyl radical also in the entire process, which will form ethane. This can also react with the Cl dot to give methyl chloride. So this way the entire process will be asked and you're supposed to write it. Now the next one is write the geometrical isomers of but2-ene. We have only two geometrical isomers. One is cis and trans geometrical isomer. So cis meaning both the CH3s of butane are on one side. Now this is going to be a cis isomer, whereas trans is the rotation of one carbon. So here when I rotate the next carbon here, this carbon when I rotate, I will have CH3 on different sides. Now this is going to be trans. So it's a 2-mark question, 1 mark for this and 1 mark for this. Now the next one is 50th question. Give any 3 conditions for aromaticity. Basically it follows the Huckel's rule, that is 4n plus 2 pi electrons. It has planarity, it has delocalization of electrons. So those rules are what we're supposed to write. Basically they are conditions to prove that they are aromatic. So first thing is they have to be planar. Second one is conjugation. Conjugation is alternate single double bonds, or you can also call delocalization of electrons. And the last one is it has to obey Huckel's rule. Obeys Huckel's rule, which is 4n plus 2 pi electrons. So these are some of the conditions for aromaticity. And then the last one is 50th B part. How is ethyne prepared from calcium carbide? Give equation. It's a 2-mark question. So we have to write a line of explanation that says when calcium carbide is treated with water, ethyne is formed. So here we can write CaC2 plus water forms C2H2 plus CaOH twice. Just balance the equation and you got your 2-mark question, which is 1 mark for the explanation and 1 mark for the equation. So in this way your part A and part B are a mixture of all parts in chemistry. Part C is for inorganic, part D is for physical, and part E is for organic. So this times question paper. Blueprint has a lot of questions. They have wide variety of options. So check into your blueprint and then study accordingly. That will make your portions even much easier. I hope this video has been helpful to you all. If you have any inquiries, please do drop in an email, or you can just put it in the comment box and I'll be answering to it. Thank you.